Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen, and thank you for always taking my questions. Happy to catch your last briefing. Thank you from all of us. So you must have some information on baby formula from these manufacturers, from the discussions that the president's been having. The administration's been saying that more formula has been produced in the last 4 weeks than the 4 weeks preceding the recall and the shutdown. So what is the best sense of a timeline for parents on how long this is going to be an issue and when in-stock rates are going to get better?
Well, there's a couple of issues at play here, Jackie, and this is a really important question, but it's hard for us to make an assessment from here. What we're seeing is that the supply shortages can be regional, and sometimes they can rotate. And sometimes the issue at play here is that bigger retailers have a more streamlined process for stocking the shelves than smaller retailers. Now, a lot of people go to stores in their community to go buy baby formula, and it may just be that there's a bit of a delay in stocking some of those shelves. It is certainly a good sign and a positive sign that there has been this increased production from these other retailers, and our hope is also that because there's going to be more flexibility with WIC and the ability of WIC recipients to purchase different kinds of formula and enabling many people who are maybe waiting for their states to make that decision, and also that states will have this rebate opportunity, will provide the incentive to further provide flexibility. That will also help, and of course imports. So we're working to not just address, we've been working to address for months, but we're working to make this, ensure that there is greater supply, consistent supply on the shelves as long as possible. Now what we know, and I know from feeding formula to 2 kids, is that typically you have one formula that you give your kid, right? And so the challenge here is also for parents when they're reliant on one formula, and maybe their child has certain needs because they're sensitive to dairy products or other products. And so the other part of this that we're trying to address is providing these resources so that if people have questions about what kind of formula they can take as an alternative, like the ones that will be imported are not necessarily formulas that people know, but there may be ones that are parallel to the formulas that people are taking or giving to their children. So we are working on every lever here to expedite addressing this and to ensure that when mothers go to the grocery stores in the coming weeks, that they will see the shelf stocked.
And I did just go through the HHS website that you guys put out. And one of the suggestions for emergency situations would be to call your pediatrician, see if they have in-store samples or in-office samples, or go to the local food pantry. Clearly, you've outlined this as, there's going to be a range of sort of timelines depending on where you live in the country and where you shop. But say for big box stores, I mean the Walmarts and Giants and Kroger's, can you give us sort of a ballpark window for just realistically how many weeks or months parents are going to be having trouble finding it, or in-stock rates would start to improve?
Let me first say that the reason we suggest calling your pediatrician is because of this question I just touched on. Because when you're feeding your child formula, typically they don't recommend changing formula necessarily, but there are ways to do it. And if your child has specific needs or is intolerant to certain ingredients, a pediatrician can help advise on that. But obviously there are a lot of other resources through public health sites as well. I would say for the bigger retailers, some of whom the president spoke with yesterday, their number one biggest ask was the flexibility on WIC. And their feeling was that would help them take steps, given the increased supply of these other manufacturers, to help stock the shelves more quickly.
So you guys aren't comfortable giving any sort of ballpark window of time, basically?
As quickly as possible is our objective, Jackie, but it's going to be different store to store.
Okay. And then one more also on baby formula. It seems like when there's a crisis, you often call on the FTC to look at price gouging. I recall this administration doing that with gas prices. It didn't seem to really bring down gas prices and did not increase supply. How's it going to be different this time around with baby formula, and how quickly are they going to be cracking down on people who are hoarding, and that, what are the ramifications? When are we going to see that play out?
Well, the FTC is an independent agency, so by us calling for them to look at price gouging, they obviously haven't taken a step on oil companies. Otherwise, you would be fully aware of it. But it is something that we can all watch, even as non-economists and even as non-oil experts. When the price of oil goes down, the price of gas should go down, and that is not what we have seen consistently. I would say, as it relates to baby formula, what we know is that we are certainly seeing, and we have seen hoarding happen, and so we are looking for that to be looked into, and we think that's an issue where if there's caps, and this is something we have been working to institute on the number of containers that can be purchased, that will help. But also we are taking every step we can to ensure that that is tracked and that can be addressed if needed, in the pool of doing everything we can to address this. Go ahead.